All right, let me set the scene for you. Your business is growing year after year. Your sales are going up every single year, but something crazy is happening. You're not making any more money. Matter of fact, you've doubled your sales, but yet your income, your profits that you're making at the end of the day are just the same as they once were. What the heck is going on? Somebody's got to be stealing from me, right? Somebody that I've trusted to do my books might be messing with them, or some of my employees are stealing from me. Something's going on. There's no reason why I'm not making more money when I am doing more in sales. Hey, badass business owners, my name is Tammy, and I'm here to help you grow your business, but more importantly, grow those profits. And I want to go over a conversation that I had and what we found out when we started diving in to this business. But before I do that, I'm going to apologize for this echo. As you can tell, the background is a little bit different. I am working on a new studio, but I have not addressed the echo in the room, mainly because it's not done. And so there's a lot of space. So hopefully this echo is not too bad, and I'm going to be able to fix a lot of it in post-production. But if you do hear it, it's going to be temporary. All right. Now let's dive into what's going on. So a business owner reaches out, and like I said, they had been doing more money than they've ever done, but they started questioning the other person who was helping them in their books that maybe some funny business had been going on. So we took the books and said, okay, let me look at them. Let me see what's going on and see if I can figure out what's happening. So I go into this thinking that somebody is messing with the money, right? That somebody's pulling out extra money they shouldn't be doing, because what he did is he had given over the books to somebody else. He had given over the bank accounts and everything else to somebody else to manage. And he wasn't always looking in them. He just assumed everything was being done correctly. So obviously the first thought that he had is that somebody was ripping him off. Now, this is very common, by the way, with small businesses that don't like to do their bookkeeping, so they have somebody else do it for them. But the thing that we don't want to do is go falsely accusing somebody of doing something unless we know for sure that is what's going on. So grab the books and start looking at it. And sure enough, guess what? Their sales were just going up. They were doing better year after year, but then it kind of slowed down a little bit. And then I could look at the profit and I could see, wow, even during the years that it was growing, the profit wasn't growing. And then what I saw was, because this year had leveled off and come down slightly, they were losing a ton of money. And we're talking like $70,000 swing. So I can see why they were freaking out, because here they were doing about the same in sales, maybe a little bit less, but yet they had $70,000 less in profit than what they had had in the past. What the heck was going on? So of course I start looking into this and I'm like, well, I'm not seeing any weird transactions or anything like this, but I did see what I thought was going on, but I wanted to do what they wanted me to do, which is to look for anything nefarious that might be going on. And I'm happy to say there really was nothing nefarious going on. It was just a mistake that the business owner was making, and they never caught on to there was a problem. You see, what happens is they just kept seeing their top line. They kept seeing their sales go up and up and up. And they knew they were investing some of that money, but they didn't realize how much they were investing. But more importantly, they didn't realize they never turned it off when they needed to. Now you're probably asking yourself, what on earth were they investing in? Well, they were investing in people, because as the business grew, they continued to hire more and more people. And then as the business started to slow down a little bit, guess what? You got it. They didn't slow down the hours for the people that they hired. What they ended up doing is continue to give them the same amount of pay as they were giving them when they were doing better. Then the next year came and their sales went down even more. And looking at payroll, that didn't drop at all. So if anything, what was happening is the sales were coming down, but the payroll was staying the same, if not going up. And it created, as I mentioned earlier, that $70,000 swing in profitability. So this whole time, they've been spending months thinking somebody was stealing from them. And what they didn't realize is they were stealing from themselves. They weren't looking at their business numbers at all. Matter of fact, they hadn't touched their books in about a year and a half. Now, they assumed somebody else was doing it, but the other person, they kind of washed their hands and they stopped doing it themselves. Sure, they were doing the invoicing and they were making sure that they were getting paid, but as far as the transactions and dealing with them, they weren't doing that. So it told me that nobody's looked at their profit and loss for at least a year and a half. Now you might be asking, well, how on earth did they do their taxes if they weren't even getting their stuff together? I don't know. And I have met some business owners that will turn in numbers to a CPA or to a tax person. More than likely, it's probably a tax person who's not a CPA. And they just say, look, these are my sales, these are my expenses, and do my taxes. Or in some cases, they hadn't done the taxes yet, which was in this particular case, they were behind. They didn't know what was going on. They weren't paying attention. And at the end of the day, they were spending money that they should not have been spending. And the whole point of why I want to have this conversation is there's so many things to get out of this particular example. The first one is you must be doing your books. You must be logging your sales. You need to be logging your expenses, and you need to be watching what comes out of that. You need to be looking at your numbers. Probably the number one thing I've been preaching forever is sales minus cost of goods minus expenses equals your profits. Well, if you don't know what all three of those are, how are you supposed to know what your true profits are? He's looking at that top line thinking that he should be having a lot of profit from that, but yet he wasn't looking at what he was spending and what was going on and what was going out the door. And that is a huge mistake that I see way too often with people. One of the reasons that, like I said, and I kind of started helping people when I was doing my coaching meetings, and then I just started getting into bookkeeping just to help them out, was for this very reason. I want to bring to the attention of as many business owners as I can, you've got to look at your numbers. Now, I get it. You can't stand doing that stuff. It's not the task you like doing. You like running the business. You like being in the business. But you have signed up to be a business owner, which means you need to be looking at your business numbers. And if you don't want to do your bookkeeping, then you need to either have somebody that you trust completely to be in there and to be doing their books or be doing your books. And you need to be following up and you need to be looking at them and you need to be able to not just jump to the conclusion that maybe they're stealing from you, but maybe you can start seeing something fishy. I've helped other businesses that have had same thing, millions of dollars in sales, and all this money was going out and nobody was paying attention to where the money was going. And they had this very first thing of like, I think my bookkeeper's doing something they shouldn't be doing. And it turned out that the bookkeeper could have been better. Absolutely could have been a better bookkeeper. But at the end of the day, they couldn't even answer to where all the money was going. So they had thousands and thousands of dollars going out every single month, and they weren't even looking at it. So half the charges, when we were asking what they were, they had no idea. So how would they ever catch the fact that they're bleeding money because they weren't even looking at the numbers? But then they never looked at the numbers, so they didn't even know that their bookkeeper could be doing a better job. The bookkeeper wasn't taking any money. The bookkeeper was doing what she could with the information that she had. Now, can I be 100% positive that the bookkeeper wasn't taking anything? Not without doing a really deep dive to find out what's going on. But the odds are they're not. Most bookkeepers are not robbing you. They are not taking your money. They're doing the best they can to be able to assign things to the categories that they need to do. But at the end of the day, they're only as good as the information you give them. So you need to make sure that you are working hand in hand and you're giving them the information they need to be able to classify your categories the right way. And then you need to be making sure that they give you a profit and loss statement every single month. And the good bookkeepers, what they're going to do is they're going to tell you what they see. For example, when I send out my monthly reports, I identify areas for them. So I tell them, hey, look, you need to go hone in on this. Here's what your sales were. This is what they look like compared to the past. This is what they look like from the month before. By the way, you need to dive into this particular section and see what's going on. So I try to give them some ideas of where to start looking, because it can be very overwhelming when you first start looking at a P&L. It's like, well, what am I looking for? Which is probably why most people get them and turn around and file them. They either put them on their desk somewhere, they leave them in an email, or they just throw the paper that they're giving off to the side. Not me. I want you to say, hey, at least go look at these 2 or 3 things that I've identified for you, because I just spent all that time putting that information together for you, and you owe it to your business to go figure out what's going on and why your sales might be down, why certain categories might be down, why you might be spending more money where you shouldn't be. Or I'm going to give you a warning going, hey, you may not have realized this, but your sales are going up and you're spending way too much money on payroll. And that's exactly what would have happened with this particular person. We would have caught this thing probably a year ago. But instead, because he wasn't really looking at his numbers, he went an entire year and a half without even realizing that he has been spending way too much money and that he already had a $70,000 loss this year alone from not looking at his payroll and not paying attention. So I guess in one way, for him thinking that maybe he was being robbed and somebody was skimming the money off, it worked to his advantage because at least it caught the problem. It wasn't what he thought it was, but at least he caught the problem. So my challenge to you is please make sure that you are looking at your numbers. But more importantly, you've got to make sure that you stay on top of them and that you're making sure that they're getting done on a monthly basis. I can understand that sometimes if you're doing it yourself or someone family, you might fall behind a little bit, but overall, you've got to get on top of that because information doesn't help you today if it's from information for months ago. So it's great that he has it today, but that's not going to help him get back that 70,000. It will help prevent him from losing 70,000 moving forward. But guess what? It's not going to get that money back. So it's really important you look at your numbers as quickly as you can to look for those trends. That's another big takeaway that you need to have from this. So there's a lot of different things that go into this. I'm going to continue to preach to you about your business numbers. I'm going to continue to do these videos for you. I want you to be profitable, but I need you to spend the time as a business owner. You don't just do what it is that you do. You are a business owner and you owe it to yourself and you owe it to your employees. You owe it to your family. You owe it to everybody to look at those numbers and look for opportunities so that you can be as profitable as you can possibly be. And with that, I'm out of here. I'll talk to you next week and we'll talk about more ways that you can grow your business, make more money. So hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and I will talk to you next time. Bye for now.